Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. It's Saturday, so it's an update, what's going on in the shop video. I get to talk about what's happened with the S10 because something came in with that. That's going to be cool. I'm going to show you here in a second. But I also want to talk about the technical video will be on Monday. If there's one you haven't ever watched, I would say it's this one. And I hate when YouTube channels say that stuff. But by accident, on the dyno, I found something. And I really want to share it with you. And I told you, if you watched last Monday's video when I talked about that dyno session with the CNC ported head, I told you there's 3 parts. Well, the second part is the one I'm going to show on Monday. Because I'm telling you, and I'm not trying to build it up, I guess I kind of am, but you will definitely get something out of it. Because what I found, and it was truly by accident, was worth noting and worth a video. So please watch on Monday. But this isn't so much tech. I mean, there's always a little bit of tech in here, but not like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Really, as far as heads that come in, a lot of stuff's coming in, but nothing like, ooh, I got to show you this, except for this one. This one actually came in because it's got some damage, as you could tell on that one cylinder here. And you're like, this is just another small block Chevy head. True, but this is a Brodix in the T1X. And I have yet to have one actually come through the shop, so I still have to clean this up and flow it, and then I've, of course, got to fix the damage before someone emails me, no, I don't fix damaged heads. This is nothing. This is just surface this will probably clean this up, redo the valve job. People keep emailing me, could you fix this? And it's not that I can't or can't have it done or get the process to get it done. It's not worth my time. And you're like, oh, you arrogant prick. No, I mean, I could do other jobs that will make me more per hour. Why would I do that? So, no, I don't do repairs. This is not really, this is going to be piece of cake. But anyway, this is a T1X head. And the difference between this one and a regular track one head for a small block Chevy is the valve spacing. So this one, the valves are moved over 40 thousandths on the intake and 60 thousandths on the exhaust. So it's moved over this way towards the bore wall, and this one's moved off the bore wall. In theory, this one should flow more, and we're going to find that out. So I'll do a later video on that. It has, from the factory, CNC chambers, CNC bowl blend, and this gasket match, which you can see the bowl blend, although I blasted it. You could tell it looks a little bit wider, even though it's kind of dark through here, through the push rod pinch, and that's because when you have 40-60 spacing, the stud gets moved over too to put it in line with the valve. Because the valve gets moved, the stud hole gets moved, meaning the rocker actually has more space. Anyway, so there's more push rod area. I'm going to flow that one and show you that. But that's as far as any other of the cool heads that's come through the shop this week, not really. I still have the 2 from last week I still need to flow. I thought I'd get that done this week, but there was a job I really, really wanted to get done. And I finally finished it, so now I can move on with other projects. So, but anyway, let's go with what's going on in the S10, because this is kind of cool. The transmission came in. So what is this? This is going in the S10, which is underneath the car wrap, just because I washed it, which I rarely wash trucks and vehicles. I know you're like, you should, don't you want to keep them pretty? Yeah, but it's time. But anyway, because I washed it and waxed it, because I took it to that one car show, I just put the cover over it. But anyway, it has a power glide and a transmission in it now. This is the Turbo 400 from FTI that's going in it. It's their 4.5 version. I think you can see it there. And I had to make this one custom. It's not really, I mean, kind of custom, because it's power glide link. So let me kind of explain. Let me get down here. On a Turbo 400 like this, the distance between the front and the back on these for a Turbo 400 is longer than a power glide. So you can't just swap it right in unless you have a new drive shaft made that's shorter. And you're like, well, why don't you just cut the one you have? Well, the one I have is carbon fiber, so no, that ain't happening. Because there's a whole bonding process that reattaches the front. But they can, like ATI I know does it, and FTI does as well. They can make them power glide length, and here's essentially what they do. This back piece back here, there's a shorter one that they make, and that's this, than their average one that you have. So that brings this length to the same length that would be from a power glide. The other thing is the output shaft. If they just did this piece on, you'd have your output shaft sticking way out there. So they machine down the shaft and redo the splines. I just have this yoke in here, by the way, just to kind of get it out of the way. But just so that it'd be the same length in your drive shaft, you can essentially use the same. However, you still have to switch to this yoke. And the reason for it is the Turbo 400, switch hands here. Now I've got oil on that one. Sorry about that. The Turbo 400 has a bigger spline count and it's larger diameter on the output shaft than a Powerglide. So you have to change to a different yoke on your drive shaft, which is not a big deal. So FTI sells this, which is really made by Mosier. But that's all I'm gonna have to do. Now, there's something else, because there's a huge other problem. Even if you did that and you go to put it in, you could have a problem because this is where your crossmember mount goes. And your crossmember mount is further back. So Powerglide one's probably up here. It's like 6 inches away. And this is the 400. So even though I've got an aftermarket crossmember in there, it cannot go to the 400. So I had to buy a new crossmember that bolts in place. So switching the crossmember. There's a couple other things I still need to get. One of them is, and I have to give FTI credit for this, they come with the AN fittings. Do you know how many transmissions I've ordered that have been really expensive, like $4 grand, and don't have that? Because I run 6 AN lines. So I gotta get that. I have to get a new dipstick for that. These are on order. I forgot to get the dipstick, and then obviously your shift lever and stuff, which I've got. So I have to change the gate or the plate in my shifter so I can run this, because this is a reverse pattern too. So I have a new Neil Chance converter to go in here, and we'll give it a shot. That's the idea. Hopefully my boys will be down here this weekend or next week to help me change this transmission out, and then we'll get to make some progress. I say, why are you switching from the Powerglide to this? One, if you watch my previous videos, I think I might have broke something in it. It's still working, but I don't know if it'll keep working. The other disadvantage for the Powerglide is only 2 speeds. So I've got a 355 rear gear, which is great driving around. Kind of a dog when you take off. Not really a dog. I say that. It actually takes off fairly hard. But the 242 on the thrust gear ratio on this is going to make it feel like a whole nother animal. And I'll still get to use my drive ratios. This was the other part. I got slicks and I got new tires. Now these are race stars, and I had my hopes so high up for these things. But let me show you some stuff. Inside here, I was expecting to be like the billet. See, this is a billet specialties. Yeah, I had them powder coated black. See those washers? That's what I have to use in my Moser kit. So I thought, well, shit, that's what should work on that. So I call Raystar up, and they're like, yeah, you just put your washers in, everything will work. And it'll be centered off that. The hell it will. When you put a washer in here, let me grab one. These are the washers that come with your, if you have a 5/8 stud, you probably have these Moser kit that come with these washers. And you use that because they're straight on your studs itself. It's not all the way threaded, so you have to use these so you can get your lug nut to where it needs to be. However, when I called Raystar, they're like, yeah, these wheels will work. These will center them. In other words, when you put these in, see how the play on it? It's supposed to center. It doesn't. It doesn't. And here's the other catch, and this is a huge one, which I'm kind of mad at myself for on this. These don't center, because one, there's a little bit of play in between here. And if you look at my billet specialties, these ones, if you take that off, the hole in the wheel is actually smaller. So it fits snug. It's centered by sitting on the stud, not by the washers. So in other words, this washer hole is actually bigger, which you can kind of tell, than the inside of the rim. You go to the Raystars, this is the smaller part than that. Then this has a lot of play, but that's not even the bigger problem. Look at this. I totally had forgotten about the nuts themselves have a larger diameter. So this nut right here, which I could pull out, actually has a bigger diameter because it flares out than this hole. So what I had to do was chamfer this edge just so those lug nuts that you just saw would go on. In other words, I had to grind, which you can kind of see. Grind here and grind there so that the actual nut would go on. Now, I didn't go too deep because then the washer wouldn't be able to center. That was the idea. Well, it has enough play. So I'm having new washers made that fits tighter so that it will center better. Because I was like, well, I'll just take it for a drive just to see what it feels like. I can feel it. So it's like, boom, boom. At the slower speeds, the higher speeds, not so much because you're probably turning too fast. But Yeah, no. I got to get it centered. So I'm having some new washers made that will center off this tighter and get tighter in here so it's centered. And then I'm just going to have to keep grinding that just so the lug nuts fit. Kind of a pain. As you can tell, this isn't even ideal. Now I got a 1/4 inch spacer behind here to get the wheel to sit right, but that ain't right. I need more thread sticking out. So I'm gonna have a machine, a smaller washer, wider diameter to get it to fit. Kind of a pain. But anyway, there's that. All those guys together really made it possible for me to do what I do. Unfortunately, because everybody's got their, other jobs, it's really, really tough. Now, the future for Weingartner Racing, I still plan to help them as much as possible because each one of them have their own racing goals. So, for instance, this is Keith Couch. He won the Pure Stock Championship at Salina, but he also won the NASCAR division for this area. And I think a couple weeks ago, he was in Tennessee getting recognized for that, and he finished 7th nationally. That's an outstanding achievement he done. So I'm going to continue to keep helping him to pursue what he needs. Trent Dugan, on the other hand, he's got a quick S10 that he does, no prep, street racing type deals, and it's still, he's ran it before, and it was very successful, especially for being on nitrous. But he's switching to turbos. He's still at the chassis shop, but I'm going to try to help him as well. Meanwhile, Bishop, in the same time, trying to get his Nova ready for a week so that he can do some beginning racing as well. All these guys, huge help to me and a great thing. That finishes up the technical part. Now for the swimming stuff, which I know some of you hate, so you can just tune it off now. Please watch on Monday because you really should learn something pretty interesting in that one. Okay, so here's what happened with my son swimming. If you don't run into this, I get it. I totally get it because, everybody's got something that they brag on. You just find like, blah, but it is my son and I want to be proud of him. I actually I recorded a video of him swimming that I'm actually going to put in this one. By the way, as you're looking at my face, you see why I have a face for radio and definitely not for TV. But anyway, so on Saturday, after I'd finished filming the video that I did last week, we had gone to Claremore to swim for Broken Arrow High School. Now, if you remember, my son swims for 2 teams. He has a club team, which is Swim Tulsa. And then he's got his high school team, which is Broken Arrow. Club swim is a little bit tougher, and high school is a little bit easier. So far, the high school record had been, I think, 3-0 or 4-0. So they had won every match or every event that they had gone to. So we went to Claremore, and we were going to swim against Owasso and Pryor. Bishop got put into 2 events that he should have been great at. And one of them is the 100 butterfly, which, by the way, he used to absolutely suck. He looked like a whale flopping in water when he first started in his freshman year. Although he'd had plenty of training with it, he just didn't have it. For whatever reason, this last probably 9 months, he found it. And he's gotten quick. Anyway, so he was swimming that, but that's not his favorite. His favorite is the 500 meter or 500 yard freestyle swim. He likes the longer distance because he knows he does better with it. He's got the stroke and everything for it. He likes that. But he hadn't been able to do the 500 all season because they've been in meter pools and they only do 400s. And he's done pretty well. So he's really looking to do the 500 because the 500 is the one you actually qualify for state for high school at. So anyway, the meet itself was a bit weird. It got put off. The official came late, so they couldn't start it right away. But anyway, I could go on and on about some of that. But he did this, and the timing boards themselves, they weren't working right. Like a person would touch, and it wouldn't show up on the screen that what their time was. And then they'd have to hit the board again, and then it would show it. So it made the times off a little on some of them. But I still was timing with my phone, so they were somewhat accurate. Anyway, he had, the week previous that you watched this, he had been in Bartlesville, and he had done 100 butterfly in like a 103, which is pretty good, not bad. At that time, it had been his fastest. So he goes to Claremore, and we're expecting like a 103, somewhere in that range. But as you might remember from watching all the videos, he hasn't been able to do any of his club swim for Swim Tulsa because the Tulsa Union pool has been broken because they've had a pump problem. So they've been unable to swim there for 3 weeks. So the only swimming he's getting is at the high school, and that's only like 2 hours a day from a guy that usually swims 5 hours a day. So anyway, he does his 100, and it sucks. It's like a 106. So he gained 3 seconds. And if gaining 3 seconds on a 100-yard deal, that's bad. So I'm watching, I'm like, oh, man. And I'm more worried about his reaction. Like, I'm there to support him. If he does a 125, or it could be 2 minutes, I don't care. I'm there to support him. But he got out, and he's like, man, this sucks. And he knew it sucked. But he's like, and sometimes he does this, and he doesn't tell me as a parent, which is fine, that he'll hold back on some events so that when he gets to the one that he wants, like the 500, he's got it all there. And I had a feeling maybe he might have been doing that, but I didn't think so, because he wants to do well at it. But I know he was saving this. He really was wanting the 500 for sure was what he wanted. He goes in the 500. There's only 3 swimmers in his heat. They're all broken arrow swimmers. They're the fastest guy on the broken arrow team, the second fastest, and then Bishop being the third fastest on the team. They're all doing the 500s. And I don't know how many lengths it is. I can't remember. But they take off, and Bishop's underwater is phenomenal. And he's in the lead. He starts pulling away, and he's got about a body length on the second place guy, and he's keeping a body length on him the entire time. They're playing Metallica Enter Sandman in the background. Now, you're like, well, that's cool. It is cool. You know why it's also cool? Because the song's 5 minutes, 30 seconds long. So if he times it or listens correctly, his best time he's ever done is a 5:26. So he needs to be done before that song's over. I don't think he realized it was that long. I think he thought it was shorter. But regardless, here's what he was doing. He told me later. He was keeping a length in front of the second place guy. And through the entire course, he had a body length on him. The second place guy, by the way, is the fastest swimmer for broken arrow. This guy has done, I think he's done like 450s or 445s in the 500, which is moving. Bishop's goal is to get below a 5. So in Bishop's mind, he thought, if I keep ahead of this guy or keep pace with him, I will break my record. But before the swim, the guy came up to him, and they talked. The other 2 swimmers said, look, we're going to take it easy on this one. So I'm not going to give it my all on this one because they've got a big meet that's happening right now. So their club coach, not their high school coach, said, you guys take it easy. Don't go too hard on these, because you've got a really important meet for club coming up this weekend, like right now. So so Bishop knew they were taking it easy, but he didn't think they were taking that easy. I mean, after all, he's at 450. So he thought, shoot, if he's taking it easy, it's going to be like a 5:15, and if he keeps ahead of him. Well, Bishop was in the head the whole entire way, and his stuff looked phenomenal. Like, his underwaters looked really, really good. His stroke count, as far as in a nice streamlined position and everything, his stroke count was just slow. Slow, and he wasn't kicking as hard. And he said his legs were getting sore because of the underwater stuff. Lack of conditioning from not being in swim Tulsa, I guess. Anyway, the last 50, the guy in second place, and I know what he was thinking, I'm never going to let this kid beat me, decided he was then going to accelerate and pulled past Bishop and beats him by 1 second, which that's not what Bishop cared about anyway. He didn't care if someone beat him. He wanted to beat his own time. That's what he wanted. So I didn't bring any of this up with him during the day, and you'll see why in a minute. He finishes, and he's thinking, I have just beat my best record because I was ahead of him most of the way, and I finished right there with him. He looks up and sees a 5:43. And he was pissed because, remember, he's done a 5:26. So he's thinking this is the least a 5:15, something. 5:43. He looks at the time and he's like, what? Takes off his cap, and he is just pissed. And I mean, really pissed. So he hops out of the pool, and I could see he was angry. Like, not angry with the guy next to him, angry with himself. Wasn't happy. So he gets out of the pool. He has to meet with his coaches, and he's asking the coach, and the coach is saying stuff, and he wasn't saying a word after that. I could tell you right now, he wasn't saying a word. He was just angry. Anybody that was trying to give him a high five, he'd give him the high five, but he didn't have a happy mood on his face at all. The boy was angry. Okay? And in a way, I'm glad it happened. Because for this time off that he had gotten drop times big time. He'd gained like 24 seconds on this vent that he wanted to do the best on. Or whatever. He gained a lot. I don't know the math on that one. But he gained a lot of time. And he was pissed. So it was like, he thought if I just take it easy, I'd still drop in time. Nothing could go wrong. So when he went worse, angry. So the last event was their relay, and it's a 4x100, so each one has to swim 100. He's the third slot. The man swam like he was possessed. So he hops in, like when it's his time, and all the rest, they were taking it. It was so hard to watch because our two other swimmers that are in there, the faster ones that their club coach told them to take it easy, they're like just piddling around, just barely moving. Bishop gets in, is like a man on a mission, and he does a pretty good time on it, although I think the time boards were off. It still didn't good, but I was like, oh, God. So that entire day, when he got done, we didn't say anything about his swimming because we knew he was not in that mood. My sister had come up and we watched the thing, but no. He wasn't going to talk about this. It was, let him go cool off. But I knew he was like, this ain't happening again. I'm going to fix this. So we do our thing. We let him kind of be. Order some pizza when we got back home. And he just sat on the couch. He wasn't saying much, and I wasn't going to ask him about nothing related to swimming. And I said, you know what? You said you'd watch a movie, so let's watch a movie. So you want to know what movie we picked? Bad Santa. Yeah, that got him back to almost happy. Then I see him go in his room. He hooks up his lat pull down stuff and starts doing some lat pull downs. He's like, this ain't happening again. I email his Swim Tulsa coach. I'm like, hey, here's what happened. And I'm telling you now, if the kid swam with a fire before, it's an inferno now. So whatever you're doing, whenever you get back in there, the kid's going to want everything. Don't hold him back. In other words, which I knew she wouldn't, but I'm like, whatever you got to do with this, make him a bullet, because he's ready. And he needed to lose to know what he needed to do. So on Tuesday, we go to Bartlesville to compete for the high school. Bartlesville has the fastest swimmer in the state in boys. I think the fastest swimmer for girls too. The team's unstoppable. Two of our fastest kids aren't going to swim that event because their club coach said not to. So talk about an awkward position for our high school swim coach. He's like, so you're on my team, but you're not going to swim this event for the high school because your club coach said not to. So the fastest swimmer there on our team was Bishop. So, but Bishop, he asked the coach, can I do the 500 again? And she initially said yes, but she turned him down. And I think there was more reasons to it. And I'm kind of glad she did, because he wouldn't have been faster. He would have gone faster when he did Claremore, but he wouldn't have beat his best time. He just wasn't conditioned enough for it. So I'm kind of glad she didn't. But she put him in the 100 butterfly against the fastest kid in the state. And I'm going to show you that video because it's good. Now you're watching and you're like, man, he didn't do that good. He beat his fastest time ever by 1 second. He dropped 1 second in 1 week. That's good. He is in the far lane. He's in the white cap, and you're going to see him dive in. What you're seeing in the middle, that guy's name is Griffin Craig. He's the fastest in the state. He's within like a few seconds, I think, of the Olympic times. His qualifying was a 47. Bishop's about to do a 102. Watch this. Good. So as you can see, not bad. I was actually pretty impressed. They beat his time and everything. Now, did he win his heat? Absolutely not. Did he get beat by a bunch of people? Yep. That's not what it's about. You're about beating yourself. You go faster, you keep going faster. Eventually, you're going to pass those people anyway. So, yeah, it was great. The bad part is the team got crushed. They ended up finishing second, which I was kind of surprised. on the boys' side, third, I think, for the girls. But man, ooh, it was a beating. So it's tough. They're really good. Bartlesville's probably the best in the state. I mean, people would say Jinx, but that's just because they have more swimmers. Bartlesville's got the best talent. They had a girl there that did a 5:05 in the 500. I was just talking about Bishop. If Bishop could do that, it'd be his best time ever. That girl was flying. They're on top. I mean, they're good. So anyway, he got to talk to Griffin Craig a little bit, which is good. Good influence. Good influence for sure. But anyway, that's where that is. He's off for swimming as far as competitively. He doesn't have any meets until after January. Good news for him, the Swim Tulsa pool got fixed. He went swimming on Thursday. So at Thursday, he swam back at Swim Tulsa. Friday morning, Swim Tulsa. Friday afternoon, Broken Arrow. Friday evening, Swim Tulsa. Saturday morning, Swim Tulsa. So back to 5-hour stuff. The boy's going to pick up some time. So there you go. Guys, thanks for listening all the way through this. I know you hate some of this stuff, and I get it. But I'm going to brag on my son because that's what, hell, I'm proud of him. I mean, little kid. I should have recorded more videos whenever he first started to see where he is now. And this isn't because I'm like the dad, like, you need to do better. This is all him. I could care less. He could go slow. I'd be happy. But anyway, so thanks for watching. For you guys that die hard to watch all the way to the end. Guys, I don't port cast iron. I don't know anybody that does. I should point this out because someone was like, well, someone emailed me like, hey, Brzezinski ports cast iron. I know plenty of people that port cast iron. I just don't tell you. You know why? Because here's how the phone conversations usually go, because this has happened once this week. They'll call me up, hey, man, I got this 427 big block Chevy. It's got blah, blah, blah heads on. You want to port it? Those are cast iron. I don't port cast iron. What? Why don't you port cast iron? Why don't you port cast iron? Because it takes too long. And I'm going to if I push it hard, I ruin the head, then I got to replace the head. You sure? I mean, you should port it. I can't find anybody to do it. Can you do it? No, I'm also going to charge you about 5 times more than normal. You can't do it. You sure you don't? You can't do it. Constant with trying to talk me into doing something I don't want to do. No. And so then, assuming, because this is what I used to actually recommend. I'm like, do you know anybody that does it? I'm like, well, yeah, I do. So I always recommend. I used to do this one all the time, just 'cause I know they do it. It's like, there's Brzezinski. He ports cast iron heads. Oh, I called him up. He's too expensive. Look, you just asked me to port cast iron heads, and you said you couldn't find anybody that ports cast iron heads. Do you think the only guy that ports cast iron heads is going to do it cheap? No, I don't port cast iron heads. So the reason why I say I don't port cast iron heads, I don't know anybody that ports cast iron head, because then that whole conversation lasts like 10 minutes while I'm trying to get work done. So it's not me trying to be a dick. It's like, man, I'm wasting time on something I just said no to that I have to defend why I said no. Anyway, so no, I don't port cast iron heads. Sorry for that little rant. Guys, remember, I'm no Superman. You guys take care.